flag is now in the air, signaling that everything is ready for the starting procedure to begin. He surprised everybody and he goes into the race lead. Fantastic start. So, there's a big crash. Around the outside and he takes the second place.
A warm welcome to everyone joining us from all over the world. We're here at the beautiful Autodrom Most, and the sun is out as well, finally, today on Saturday, for race number 1 of the Formula 4 Central European Zone Championship. The drivers are ready behind me for what is going to be a phenomenal day of racing. We have one of the 3 races today, the other 2 on Sunday. The sun is once again out on track after a bit of rain in the last couple of minutes, so the track is quite damp. They're going to have to be very, very careful in these opening few laps of the race. On pole position, once again, Gino Trappa for CEZ Motorsport, the leader of the championship. He's doing an amazing job with 3 victories and all but 1 race finished on the podium in the opening 3 rounds of the season. We're here for round number 4. And we're so ready for another incredible day of racing. CEZ Motorsport, again, looking to be the fastest team out there. But watch out for other cars. Of course, Murphy Racing being their best rivals this season, of course, with 2 incredible drivers such as David Walter and Nikolai Divdev, ready to make the best out of the situation. There's only 3 minutes before the start of the formation lap, so we're going to see who's going to come out on top in this first race of Formula 4 Central European Zone. And here we are back in the commentary booth for race 1 of the FIA Central European Zone Formula 4 season, here in round number 4 at Autodrom Most. We are seeing now the starting grid for this opening race of the weekend, and it's Gino Trappa once again on pole position for what is starting to be a dominant performance this year for the Argentine, a driver that has already started to make inroads towards his and his career's next steps. Last week out, he was actually at Paul Ricard with Euro Formula Open, racing for Nielsen Racing as a substitute at the last minute, but he was available, and he actually did a great job throughout the entire weekend, showcasing his talent the leader of the Formula 4 Central European Zone Championship, who also races in Spanish F4 this season. And he's now underway with the formation lap here at Most, the 4.2 kilometer circuit, which broke ground back in 1983, and that has hosted a plethora of national and regional series for Central Eastern Europe. Formula 4 CEZ being, of course, one of them, as it has done so in the past couple of years now and into 2025 as well. Gino Trappa will lead things off from pole position, just ahead of his three teammates, as Genzo once again locks out the front two rows, with Nicolas Cortez actually in second position, the driver who only mastered one podium finish so far this year, coming at the Salzburg ring in race number 1. Behind them, it's Max Karhan, who is Gino Trappa's main rival for the championship so far. The two separated by 42 points coming into Most. Karhan able to clinch his first 2 wins of the season in Salzburg in races 1 and 2, though after that it was once again Gino Trappa taking the win in race number 3. The first few laps are definitely going to be crucial here. We know just how important it can be for the drivers to take things early on in their hands, working their way up, as of course Gino Trappa will be looking to do the contrary actually, and be sure of himself in the first few laps into P1. That is of course his aim throughout this race. We'll be seeing, however, whether that will happen or not. Of course, it's not going to be that easy for Gino. Max Karhan will be looking to have a great getaway from third place, right behind the Argentine, whereas in the middle it's of course Nicolas Cortez. Watch out for the drivers starting from 5th position onwards, David Walter and Matilda Paz on the 3rd row of the grid, and Heidi Mimasi in the Renault car in 7th position. He has looked mighty quick throughout the entire year, the Canadian, taking 1 podium finish at the Red Bull Ring in race number 2, and most likely featuring in the top 7 in 5 of the latest 6 races. Here is the Genzer duo of Gino Trappa and Nicolas Cortez getting ready for what looks to be the start of yet another incredible weekend of racing in Formula 4 Central European Zone. Gino Trappa will be on the left-hand side of the track, the right-hand side of the screen, once we switch cameras to the one panning on the main straight, as the lights are now red, and as they turn off, we're going to be underway for race number 1, as it's a great getaway from Cortez, who's already looking to the inside of Gino Trappa, who squeezes his rival to the inside line. Though Cortez is through to first position, he tries to defend the place but goes slightly wide into turn number 1, de facto gifting the lead back to Gino Trappa, as all cars make it their way safely through turns number 1 and 2. But what a phenomenal getaway from Cortez, however, throwing everything away into turn 1, missing the apex and just running wide, giving Gino Trappa the lead back. Watch out now for Max Karhan, who's also looking quite strong now, as he is trying to make inroads, as there's an incident behind them, and it's one of the Mafia cars that has lost both its front tires, and that is car number 7 of David Walter, who has been collected in an incident that we saw briefly in the second half of the opening lap, and that is unfortunately him out of the race together with Matilda Paz. And here she is. I said watch out for those starting in row number 3, and unfortunately they have collided throughout this opening lap of the race. There's also another car from Mafia who looks to be out of the running, and there it is. That is car number 22, belonging to Theodor Boderstein, and unsurprisingly I have to say the safety car is out. Of course, having to take all into consideration all cars stopped throughout the track. There's some debris as well, with some pieces of front and rear wings scattered across the track. Here it is. That is the rear wing of Matilda Paz, unfortunately on the racetrack and on the racing line, actually, which of course means that we cannot go on with the racing, and we actually have to wait for the stewards and the marshals to pick everything back up. That is therefore another safety car out on track this year. And here is the contact with Matilda Paz being tagged by David Walter. There's also one of the Renauer cars that hit Paz's loose rear wing, which was very dangerous, but thankfully it looks like nothing happened. And therefore they are able to keep on going. As here is David Walter, unfortunately out of the running, together with his teammate Theodor Boderstein in car number 22. And then of course Matilda Paz out of contention as well. She had a phenomenal start to the season after a very compelling performance at the Red Bull Ring, where she finished in second at race number 3. She had another 2 top 5 finishes, this time at the Salzburg Ring, after what was actually a difficult start to the year, with just 2 points collected in the first 3 races. Paz sitting in 6th place in the driver standings. Of course, the main fight being between Gino Trapp and Max Karhan, perhaps even including David Walter, though a couple of races where he either failed to score points or only scored a couple of them meant that he is trailing by a little over 70 points, 75 to be exact, from Gino Trappa, who has been untouchable so far this season. The only driver able to stand between him and the championship now, Max Karhan, who looks to be dangerous enough to be able to pose a threat. Here is also Theodor Boderstein, fortunately out of the running for what was today's race after contact between Matilda Paz and David Walter, resulting in unavoidable further contact with Theodor Boderstein as well. Here's the replay. Paz drifting to the outside, fortunately not able to escape from the contact with David Walter, as we also saw one of the cars going massively wide into turn 13, and that was likely one of the Genza cars that was fighting for a spot on the podium. Meanwhile, of course, the safety car is out on track, and you can see it right now panning into camera as they are working very hard, the marshals, to recover all 3 cars. They have already taken care of Matilda Paz's car, and now the 2 Mafia drivers are being rescued, at least their cars are, as both of them are safely back on their way towards the pit lane. And of course, this is just another perfect example of the incredible work done by the marshals and everyone at the track, which is of course always super appreciated. And meanwhile, the red flag has been called out on track, as the safety car would have taken way too long to recover all 3 cars. So the clock is stopped at 90 minutes and 17 seconds. And here you can see Matilda Paz, unfortunately for her, out of the running. So the red flag has been called out on track. The clock, as you can see, is stopped at 90 minutes and 17 seconds. with racing halted due to the contact between Matilda Paz and David Walter. Two drivers starting from the third row of the grid. And unfortunately, this was pretty much unavoidable due to the conditions of the circuit, which is scattered with debris. And here you can see the drivers moving towards the pit lane. They're going to stay in the fast lane and wait for further instructions. And here is Matilda Paz once more. Fortunately, she is out of the running. She was on the podium earlier this year, as we said before, at the Red Bull Ring to be precise. She was in second position in race number 3. Of course, following protocol and following the rules that have been set by the FIA for Formula 4 races, even F4 Central European Zone features 3 different races per weekend. Naturally, that is one of the biggest values, added values for Formula 4 racing, giving drivers as much track time as possible. Of course, doing so in best way possible. And here you can see the very stricken car of Matilda Paz. Unfortunately, there was no way for her to continue after losing that rear wing. It looked like she thought she was clear of David Walter and drifted to the side, trying to get the best line possible out of the corner. Unfortunately, though, that is not what was happening, and therefore she ultimately had to step out of the car and be out of contention. Meanwhile, here is Theodor Borenstein's car as well. And we did not see how he was involved in the crash itself, though it looked like he was, unfortunately for him, a passenger of things. But naturally, we're not gonna speculate on how he got taken out or crashed out of the race itself. But the undisputable fact is that he is out of the running for race number 1. Borenstein being one of the youngest drivers out there, and meanwhile we have the confirmation that the race will be restarting in 10 minutes. Speaking on Borenstein, he scored points on 3 occasions this season, in the first 2 races of 2025 at the Red Bull Ring, and then race number 1 in the latest round at the Salzburg Ring. This being the first race weekend outside of Austrian borders. Naturally, the series touching many different countries and racetracks around Central Eastern Europe. First of all, of course, the double round in Spielberg between April and May, and then going to Salzburg on June 1st. After that, we enjoyed, at least for this very first brief part, the race weekend here in Most, with 3 races between today and tomorrow. This, of course, signaling the start of the second half of the 2025 season with round 4 out of 6. Then after the summer break, we will be going to Orechova Poton in Slovakia, as the Slovakia Ring will be hosting round 5. And then last but certainly not least, we'll be back here in the Czech Republic for what is round number 6, this time in Brno, the other very famous Czech racetrack, which has had its surface remade ahead of this year as MotoGP went back racing there. Of course, motorbike racing being quite famous throughout the Czech Republic and here in Most too, with the superb action of the World Superbike Championship that joined the track in 2021 with a 5-year deal. Here we have again one of the Mafia cars, and that is David Valter's number 7, unfortunately out of the running, and that is a big implication in the championship. Effectively, I have to say, it could be what takes him out of the running altogether. It's going to be very hard for him to recover from this, as of course it is super difficult for him to climb back those 75 points that he has as a deficit compared to Gino Trappa. And then of course that gap is only going to get larger and larger, especially after this race, should Gino Trappa finish in the points, which is very likely given that he is currently leading the race. And I think this is the best moment to remember the classifications up until now. Gino Trappa is of course leading despite briefly losing P1 after the start. Second place belongs to Nicolas Cortez, who was leading at one point but unfortunately made a mistake into turn 1 and could not hold P1, and therefore the Mexican has dropped to second. Third place for Max Carhan, Gino Trappa's main rival in the standings, and behind him it's Heidi Bimassi for the first non-Genza driver. He was able to overtake Javier Herrera, which was that driver that finished and went wide while the crash was happening behind him, meaning that Bimassi was able to get to the inside and claim 4th position from him. Behind Herrera in 5th, there's František Nemec in 6th place, and here is once again the replay of the contact. Look at Bimassi, was so good to avoid the contact, and even better was Nemec, who was inches away from finishing out of the running, but he was so concentrated on not doing that he was able to claim 6th position. 7th is Simon Schranz ahead of Bennett Gaspar, David Gorčica and Chiara Henny, the German, looking to step into the points paying position for the very first time this season. She's had quite a tough start of the year, though she's been learning a lot compared to some of her rivals who's had a lot more time in the car itself, which makes it of course easier to regain confidence, and of course better confidence usually means better race pace altogether, and that is exactly what was happening for Chiara Henny's rivals throughout this first half of the season. Now Henny is in 10th, looking of course to claim her first points in 2025. Henny has a best finish of 12th position so far, and likely going to change today because of this huge opportunity that she has thanks to this crash that enabled her to gain 3 places. Of course, she's looking to become the 3rd woman to score points this year after Matilda Paz finished in 2nd at the Red Bull Ring. She's actually sitting in 6th in the standings. And then of course Michalina Sabai in Salzburg finished 10th in both races 1 and 2 of this year. We're now quite close to the race start. We're going to be back underway in about 4 minutes, with Gino Trappa leading the way. Of course, trying to be as quick as possible off the line. He, however, kind of failed to do so, as he was demoted down to 2nd. Then, of course, being able to climb back to 1st following Nicolas Cortez who went wide into the opening corner of the circuit. Fortunately for him, it was not easy to keep first place, and that's fortunately what happened for him. Though naturally he is still in second position and looking for what could potentially be a super important finish. He only managed to step on the podium once this year. He was third in race number 1 at the Salzburg Ring. That is likely going to change this weekend given his incredible pace throughout this fourth round of the season. Let's not forget, of course, that we have 2 more races following this one for Formula 4 Central European Zone taking place tomorrow. Race 2 will see the starting grid being determined by the results of the race that we are seeing right now. And those results, with the top 4 to 8 reversed, will give birth to the starting grid of race number 3. There will be a lottery after race 1 to decide how many places will be reversed in the final race of the weekend, and that is going to be courtesy of the race winner. So whoever wins race number 1 will have the responsibility of drawing a number that will determine how many places will be reversed come race number 3. That is, of course, all down to luck, but at the same time it will be quite important for the teams to finalize that. Of course, there's no mind games available, given that everyone has at one point the chance to start from reverse grid pole. Meanwhile, the race start, as always, will be behind the safety car. We were definitely expecting that, as the rules state that it's mandatory to do so, and therefore we will be ready to watch another restart happening sooner rather than later, given that, of course, it's one of the most important moments of the race, the standing start. I'd say problem solved for Gino Trappa, as he is now only needing to control the restart well enough to be sure of first place. At least for the restart. Then, of course, he's going to have a full other 90 minutes to deal with. That is not going to be easy whatsoever, but he has what it takes to do so. We saw that earlier this year, and meanwhile, here we go with the cars leaving the pit lane. The red flag has been cleared. The track is now ready to see some action once more, and the restart of the race is, of course, behind the safety car, so the clock starts again. We have now less than 70 minutes left on the clock, and we are going to keep on going for race number 1 of the Formula 4 Central European Zone Championship. Gino Trappa clearly leading, with Nicolas Cortez in second and Max Carhan third. Drivers now starting to warm up their tires once more, looking to get the best restart possible, of course. Gino Trappa, on one hand, he will be looking to keep the lead. Nicolas Cortez, on the other, was phenomenal in the first actual start of this race, taking the lead away from the Argentinian, then, of course, losing it in the process as he outbroke himself into turn number 1. Trappa, of course, has to be quite intelligent with his racecraft as well. He does not want to make any unnecessary moves or defenses, given that he only has to virtually manage the gap over Max Karhan, who's currently into 3rd position. And he definitely needs to just do his best. And that will certainly be enough to at least keep the championship lead for now. Trappa taking pole ahead of this weekend, which was not a surprise, as we said earlier. Was not the first one either. Took pole in all but one weekend, and that one was the opening one of the season, where Bart Harrison got pole as the Briton took part with Genza for the first round only this year, taking home 2 wins and a 3rd place, which saw him at first being the maiden championship leader of the season, and then Gino Trappa taking that off of him in the Red Bull Ring in weekend number 2 of this 2025 season. We now see the drivers getting ready for the race restart with 60 minutes left on the clock, as Gino Trappa is scheduled to take things underway once more. We'll see whether or not Nicolas Cortez will pose a big challenge, or if it will be maybe Max Karhan trying to make some inroads over his 2 teammates. Of course, it's never easy to fight against someone from the same team, given that the teams are trying to work for the championship together and for the team's crown as well. Where Genza, of course, is dominating this season so far with all but 2 race wins, which went to Rio Racing and Maffei between the 2 rounds at the Red Bull Ring. But we are ready for the restart, as Gino Trappa has taken some space from the safety car, which will be in at the end of this lap. And here we go, back underway with a big lockup from one of the, I think it was one of the Formula 4 CEZ Academy drivers, which did not look too good at the restart, with Gino Trappa maybe waiting for the right moment to go, as we go back to green flag racing here in Most. Gino Trappa in the lead, Nicolas Cortez in 2nd position, and Max Karhan now into 3rd. Watch out for Javier Herrera down the inside of Heidi Mimasi. He knows that maybe this is not his fight, and therefore he lifts off and settles into 5th position. Everyone else looking very good through the opening couple of corners, but that was not the issue the first time around. Sector 2 was, so we're going to wait for that before calling it a better start than the one that we saw around 20 minutes ago, with Gino Trappa now in the lead with 7/10 over Nicolas Cortez. The restart, of course, being much easier than the actual race start itself. As now we see the Genza cars in positions 1 through 4, once again dominating the scene. The Swiss team, which has plenty of experience in Formula 4 racing, and not just that, they also used to race in FIA Formula 3 before leaving the championship at the end of last year in favor of Dams. But the Swiss outfit has always been the driving force of F4 CEZ, taking the titles in the last 2 years. 2023 was the opening year for the championship, which saw Ethan Isher take the crown by just 2 points over Rino Franco. Whereas in 2024 it was, of course, Oscar Wirtz taking the crown. Oscar now moving on and driving in Euro Cup 3 with DriveX. Of course, in that middle ground in between Formula 4 and Formula 3 racing, which includes powerful championships such as the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine and, of course, Euro Cup 3. Drivers now being split into those 2 categories, as Euro Cup 3 has started to provide a good alternative to FRECA since 2023. with an updated aero kit that has been really liked by drivers, though of course Formula Regional will be getting the new car from next year onwards. Meanwhile, the fight for 7th position seems to be underway now, with Nemetz and Gaspar one against the other. Car number 9 driven by Simon Schranz for Autodrom Motorsport, with František Nemetz right behind him in the F4 CEZ Academy livery. Of course, the program that sees the best talents from Central Eastern Europe fight for a spot, for a permanent spot on the grid. Usually the CEZ Academy drivers compete in either 1 or 2 rounds, and then the best placed driver gets as a prize a test session with the team, as fortunately we see one of the cars apparently beached into the gravel. That was at least what was looking likely, and that, I don't want to say that it was Chiara Henny, but it could well and truly be the German, who looks to have missed the last couple of turns, as she has not crossed the line yet for lap number 6, and that would be such a shame for Chiara. She was looking to finish in the points for the very first time this weekend and this season, actually, and unfortunately the safety car is out once more as Chiara Henny is beached at the exit of turn number 20 in the gravel trap. It looks like she spun out of the penultimate corner as she's facing the wrong way, unfortunately, and that is such a shame for Chiara. She was in 10th position for the restart, and here she is. That is very, very unfortunate for Chiara Henny, but the safety car is out once more, and Gino Trappa sees his lead being cancelled once more as the race gets neutralized for the 2nd time today. Of course, this, however, is a much smaller incident compared to the one we witnessed earlier, which means that there's not going to be any need for a red flag or anything of the sort. With 9 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock, however, we're drawing closer and closer to yet another Gino Trappa win. We were talking about how the Argentinian is starting to become a very quick driver, and teams are starting to get interested in him, as we saw with Euro Formula Open last weekend, where he subbed in for Nelson Racing, being a very cool opportunity for him, of course, to try in a much more powerful car, which could potentially be his next step on the FIDE Series ladder. Euro Formula Open being yet another alternative to Formula Regional Championships, especially around Europe, which is where Trappa has based his career so far, despite him being from Argentina. Of course, there are a lot more opportunities around here compared to what happens back in his hometown, unfortunately. Meanwhile, here is Matilda Paz being recovered from the stewards. Sorry, that is Chiara Henny. Matilda Paz was out in the opening stages of the race. That's unfortunately a common exit out of turn 20. It's so easy to spin out the tires and out of the race as well, and that is exactly what happened here with Chiara. Unfortunately, she will not be fighting and contesting for points today. Who knows, maybe races number 2 and 3 could be better for her, though of course race 1 is so important for the entire weekend, because that's how the starting grid is formed for race number 2, and then the same goes for race number 3, though with the top 4 to 8 reversed depending on the ballot that takes place after race number 1. Therefore, a DNF in the opening race means that you're going to have to start from the back in all remaining races in the entire weekend, which is definitely not what Chiara Henny would want, and definitely not what the three drivers that were involved in the opening crash of today's race would want either. Those are David Walzer, Matilda Paz and Theodor Borenstein. In fact, that is especially the case for David Walzer, who looks to be out of the running for the championship as well now. He's at risk of dropping more than 90 points behind Gino Trappa. That would be almost an unsurmountable amount, as yes, it has been done before. Of course, the mind of every F4 addict goes back to Italian F4 in 2023, when Kasper Stuka overcame a gap that was over 100 points behind Arvid Lindblad to take the crown 2 years ago. But he had a lot more races on his hand, and of course the situation was much different compared to F4 CEZ, with a bigger grid and a higher chance for drivers to finish out of the points when things weren't going their way. Of course, a smaller grid such as F4 CEZ mitigates that factor, which means that ultimately Gino Trappa and Max Karhan are the two fighting for the championship now, as Chiara Henny was able to be recovered from the gravel trap thanks to the marshal's work, but unfortunately she's not going to be able to continue, of course, as she has received outside assistance. And so she is forced to be out of the running. So the race is about to get underway once more. Fortunately not this lap, but we're probably going to see green flag racing next time by, as the danger has been recovered, so there will be no issues to continue with racing. That is at least what we're expecting to happen. We'll be awaiting for official confirmation from the stewards. As now the safety car has made Gino Trappa lose all of his lead compared to his teammate Cortez. The Mexican, of course, looking for his best ever finish in the series. It is a third place last time out in Salzburg, and therefore second position today would mean that he would get to rewrite that record. Also looking to be, at least for 2025, the sixth different driver to take victory, after of course his teammates Gino Trappa, Max Karhan and Bart Harrison did so, and adding his name to the collection together with David Walzer and Luca Visorianu, the Romanian driver who took the victory in race number 3 around the Red Bull Ring in the opening race of the season, racing with Real Racing, a team that is now involved in Italian F4 and Euro 4 racing as well, the European Championship that saw Genza take part last week as well. Meanwhile, the safety car will be in at the end of this lap, and therefore we're getting ready to enjoy some more laps of racing. Not many though, as we only have 3 minutes left in what is the opening race of round number 4, as now Gino Trappa takes it away off of turns 20 and 21. Genza occupying positions 1 through 4, with Max Karhan in 3rd and Javier Herrera in 4th position as well. The race is back underway with Gino Trappa in the lead. Meanwhile, Heidi Mimasi is in 5th position ahead of Simon Schranz. The two drivers for Autodrom Motorsport in the yellow and black livery just ahead of the academy driver of František Nemec. And now it's Andres Lobue with Maffi Racing rounding out the top 10. Maffi only scoring 1 point as things stand so far, which of course would be a real shame for them, as they look to be the only answer of the championship to the incredible speed of Genza. Meanwhile, here is Mimasi looking very close to the back of Herrera. This was a fight that we saw a couple of laps ago at the restart, with Mimasi losing round and therefore giving Herrera the chance to move up into 4th. Let's see, however, if he has the chance to climb back into 4th place. Mimasi was able earlier this year to finish on the podium at the Red Bull Ring in 3rd place in race number 2, and that is still his best result of the season. He currently sits in 7th in the championship, though he will be overtaking Matilda Paz if things stay this way, as he's only 7 points behind the German driver, and she is out of the running after contact on lap number 1, which brought out the red flag. Now we start what is looking to be the final lap of this race. A very topsy-turvy opening of the weekend, as now we see a fight for 7th position with Gaspar going around the outside of František Nemec. A phenomenal move from the Křenek Motorsport driver, as the Hungarian overthrows the home hero František Nemec, who is down to 8th now, as Gaspar is up into 7th. Behind them there's also Křenek Motorsport with David Goršica in the white and red livery, and behind him is Maffi with Andreas Lobue, while Nikolai Drivdev is at 11th, just outside of the points paying positions. Drivdev, of course, having struggled this year, only finishing in the points once, and that was in round 2 of the season. But nothing looks to be able to stop Gino Trappa, not today, and perhaps not all season long, as of course he is looking to be a 4-time winner after today, always on the podium apart from race number 2 at the Red Bull Ring in the 2nd round of the season. He's finished 2nd 5 times and 1st 3 times. Make that 4, because out of the final corner Gino Trappa comes home to take the win here in Most. A topsy-turvy race, but however no one could stop him from taking home victory today, just ahead of Nicolas Cortez, who is able to take his best result of the season with 2nd place. And meanwhile Max Carhan enjoys a 5th consecutive podium, and after a slow start to the season he is back in contention for the title. Though if Gino Trappa is to stay like this, I'm not sure what people can do about that championship fight, because he looks way too quick to be stopped by anyone out here on track. It's perfection for Gino Trappa out there today as well. Just a dominant performance from start to finish. He looked like he could be under pressure at the start, with Nicolas Cortez taking the lead, though that was only one very brief part of the race. He then never looked back and was able to enjoy race win number 4. Just a phenomenal performance once again from the Argentinian, as he extends his championship lead over Max Carhan in 2nd. And of course David Walter being out of the running in race 1 means that not only he has to start from the back of the grid in both races coming up tomorrow, but he's most likely out of the championship fight as well. And that is such a shame for him. He was looking very quick, especially after the Salzburg Ring. But after this round, it's very possible that he's not going to be in the championship fight any longer. as drivers now go back into the pit lane and towards Parc Fermé. Gino Trappa will be celebrating with Genza yet another victory in what is a phenomenal championship campaign so far. Here are the results of race number 1. Gino Trappa takes the win ahead of Nicolas Cortez and Max Carhan in an old CEZ Motorsport podium here in Most, as Max Carhan is able to take home a top 3 finish in his home country for the first time this season. After 3 rounds in Austria, we're finally back in the Czech Republic here in Most, and we had a very lively race here to open up things in Most, as Gino Trappa took the win ahead of Max Carhan and David Walter. Here are the highlights of race number 1. And those were the highlights of race number 1 for Formula 4 Central European Zone here in Most, the 4th round of the season. The action for the championship is wrapped up for the day, but on Sunday we will be seeing 2 more races. Race number 2 starting at 10:45 local time, and then race number 3 at 15:20 local time. Thanks for being with us, and goodbye.
Flag is now in the air, signaling that everything is ready for the starting procedure to begin. He surprised everybody and he goes into the race lead. Fantastic start. So, there's a big crash. Got him around the outside and he takes the 2nd place.
Takže, dámy a pánové, jsme připraveni na pódiovou ceremonii po prvním závodě středoevropské Formule 4 tady v Mostě. Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready for the podium ceremony after the first race of the FIA Formula 4 Central European Zone Championship here in Most. Starting with driver in third place, racing for CEZ Motorsport and representing Czech Republic. Please welcome Max Garhard! Driver in second place, also racing for CEZ Motorsport and representing Mexico, Nicolas Cortez! And please also welcome the winning driver, racing for CEZ Motorsport and representing Argentina, Gino Trappa! Also please welcome the representative of the winning team, CEZ Motorsport! The trophies are presented by Mr. Křenek. The trophy for the third place goes to local driver Max Garhard. Trophy for the second place goes to Nicolas Cortez. And trophy for the winning driver goes to Gino Trappa. And the trophy for the winning team goes to Swiss squad CEZ Motorsport. Ladies and gentlemen, now please show your respect for the Argentinian national anthem for the winning driver. Argentinian national anthem for the winning driver, Gino Trappa! Congratulations! Time for the photographers. So guys, let's grab your trophies and get together on the top spot. That's the time for the photo. And then it will be time for the champagne, also with the team representative, CEZ Motorsport. Thank you guys and congratulations one more time. And of course now it's time to have some champagne. Takže dámy a pánové, to bylo pódium pro první tři nejlepší a teď pojďme na další pódium na kategorii Rookie Rocket. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready for the Rookie Rocket class after the first race of the FIA Formula 4 Central European Zone Championship here in Most. In a third place in Rookie Rocket class, racing for CEZ Motorsport and representing Hungary, Bennett Gaspar! Second place in the Rookie Rocket class, racing for Renault Motorsport and representing Austria, Simon Schranz! And the winning driver of the Rookie Rocket class, racing for Renault Motorsport and representing Canada, Hadi Mimasi! Please also welcome the best lady of the race, racing for AS Motorsport and representing Poland, Michalina Sabaj! Congratulations to the top four drivers in Rookie Rocket and the best lady class. And the trophies are presented by Mr. Křenek once again. The trophy for the third place goes to Bennett Gaspar. Trophy for the second place goes to Simon Schranz. And trophy for the winning driver goes to Hadi Mimasi. And of course the trophy for the best lady goes to Michalina Sabaj. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please show your respect for the Canadian national anthem. Canadian national anthem for the winning driver in Rookie Rocket class, Hadi Mimasi. Congratulations, and now the time for the photographers one more time. So please grab your trophies and get together on the top spot. get together